Hi, and welcome back to Do Things Differently. I've had a little bit of break over the summer, but now I'm back with some more tips and ideas about how to move your connectivity world forward. Today, I want to reintroduce the idea of digital documentation for all those people who still seem to be a bit struggling with the concept. So let's get started. So I've been talking for many years now about the importance of digital documentation in Fix, but it still feels like quite an abstract concept for a lot of people, and so I wanted to explain both the idea and the benefits again. Where's the world today? Well, most trading interfaces are written up in a Word document, saved as a PDF, and either posted to a website or emailed out to people. You might have one of these documents yourself, or you might have received them from lots of other people. Now, those documents all look very similar. You quickly recognize the same table of contents, the same change history, those familiar headings, and of course you see tables of fields and values. It's all very familiar stuff. The problem with PDF though is that it can't be easily parsed by a machine. That is, you can't run it through some sort of magic program to extract the key bits of information you need to code up your system to be able to talk to that API. No, a PDF forces you to have a human read the document and rekey all of those field values in, and also smooth out the slight differences that you see from one document to the other. Perhaps the columns are named differently, perhaps the description and values are merged into the same cell, that sort of thing. So is this really a problem? Well, yes. It's really inefficient to force all of your customers or potential customers to do that same job. And it also means that there's a potential for error during that rekeying process. There's also the problem that your customers are actually pretty unlikely to read your document cover to cover like you might expect that they do. Typically, they quickly skim through it and take the bits they need. Worse still, when you send them an update, perhaps because you've added some new product or algo or something, the reader won't actually fancy reading through another 100-page document just to spot all of the differences. PDF is just not an easy format to be able to compare like that. Now, there are a lot of people who I hear say, oh, digital documentation, that's just putting it on a website, right? And so they look at all the API documentation sites that you see around the internet nowadays, and they start learning new templating languages like Markdown, and they try to come up with an online version of their PDF, and you get tables full of fields and values, just as you normally see in a PDF. So the question then arises, is that what you mean by digital documentation, Chris? No. Why? Because you aren't really doing anything here about the structure of the document. All you're doing is you're taking an unstructured Word document and turning it into an unstructured web page. It might be slightly easier to extract text from a web page compared to a PDF, and perhaps you can set up something to poll for changes over time on that web page. But the unstructured nature of it still means that readers can't compare between documents. Everybody is still laying out essentially the same data in a possibly slightly different way. And therefore, you can't be guaranteed that you can just pull it down and immediately build and configure directly off it. And so that's the key missing ingredient, being able to extract information that is consistent and structured. That is what I mean by a digital document. Now, practically, that means converting those field tables into a well-defined data set that's consistent across every single document I want to look at. And it means grouping that field table data into a structured data about the message that it appears within, and grouping those messages into workflows that describe how an input message relates to output messages. And so you build up this picture of a digital API, and you end up with a digital document that means structured description of your API, something that can actually be read by a human or read by a machine. As soon as you have a series of these API documents that are all structured in exactly the same way, then that's the point at which you can start to build all sorts of tools which automate a variety of manual tasks today. Tools that configure systems, tools that parse messages, tools for QA, tools for conformance, and even tools for emulation and code generation. They all require a structured document from which to work, and that is the digital document. Now, hopefully by this point, the light bulb is starting to flicker on in terms of what the benefits for both you and your customers are out of this digital documentation revolution. But you might still be thinking about the level of adoption today, and you might be fearful about backing the wrong horse, as it were. And I understand that people don't want to invest time creating and maintaining a digital API document when you don't think your customers are ready to use it. And at the same time, no vendor or customer is willing to think about changing their internal process to use a given digital format until they know that they can consistently receive it from people. And so we're stuck, right? This is a perfect chicken and egg problem. Nobody will want to produce them until there are people who are ready to consume them, and nobody will want to do the work to consume them until everybody is producing them. So how on earth do we break out of this cycle? And for me, the answer is taking baby steps. Firstly, we should not be talking about one format or another format. Format wars are stupid and pointless and waste everybody's time. That's why I prefer to talk about the concept of digital documentation instead of marketing terms like Fix Orchestra or FinSpec or Quick Fix Data Dictionary. What matters is the tooling. Think of it this way. When you have a table of data, what do? You open it up in Excel on your computer, right? Whether that's a .xlx file or an old school XLS file or a CSV file or a tab delimited file, it really doesn't matter. What matters is that you have a tool to be able to open, edit, and save the document if you need it, and you can send it to somebody with confidence that whoever you send it to will also be able to open it up and read it. And that's the way I would encourage you to think about digital documentation. The technical format is completely irrelevant. Let the geeks worry about compatibility. You should be focused on tooling to help make the transition towards digital documentation on a timeline that benefits you and for your customers. Okay, so if we wanted a tool which is capable of producing these digital documents, what are the key requirements of them? Well, it needs to be able to replace the need for you to maintain a Word document separately. That's really important because if you end up maintaining the same document twice, that's just bonkers. It's absolute waste of time and we're not solving any problem. So it has to replace your Word maintenance. It should also recognize that there may be a team of people who are editing this document and not just you. So collaboration and sharing become very important. And you also need to be able to share it with customers and prospects in a way that they can start using it, either in their existing process today, i.e. humans can read it, or in the future when they might have machines parsing it automatically. So it's important to think about how other people are going to read this. From a minimum requirements perspective, that's all you really need. And then all of the new possibilities that such a new format opens up for you, such as new tools internally, perhaps for configuration or parsing, those are all just pure upside for you. Now, there are a couple of traps people fall into here, which are really just delaying tactics that I found. The first is to say that there's no clear, wide adopted format, and therefore you should wait on the sidelines until one emerges to avoid backing the wrong horse too soon. This is actually nonsense, as the right tooling will naturally overcome this problem. Think back to my example of Excel as opposed to the .xls file. The second trap is to wait until all of the other, let's face it, more sexier parts of this process, all of those need to be available before I'm even going to consider moving towards digital documentation. So unless you build me an emulator that can parse this thing, I'm not even willing to get started. The danger here is that you end up trying to boil the ocean. You end up having a massive scope before getting started on anything, and ultimately means that you will be behind your competition who are getting started today. And the final trap is to say that you will wait here until there's enough customer demand to consume this before you decide to produce it. That's a surefire way of ending up in exactly the chicken and egg problem that I just described. So those are your three traps. Please avoid those things. I hope this helps you, though, understand a little bit more about what digital documentation is. It's a topic that we return to again and again in this series, so please check out our other videos here on YouTube for more on this topic, and of course, subscribe for any updates that we make. One final sales pitch before I go. If you're interested in looking what a digital documentation schema might look like, it's not the only one, but it's one that you can take a look at, then check out the FinSpec schema at finspec.io. It's up on GitHub. And also check out our website for our free Workspace application for an example of tooling that will help you move towards a more digital future and be able to edit and use some of these digital formats. I hope that helps. Look forward to seeing you again in the next Do Fix Differently.